0, we are live, Robert.
Good morning. Here we are, just a little after 7 for our weekly Younger Than Last Year live broadcast on Facebook. It's 7:15, a little bit late this morning. The goal is to try to get this started by 7 every morning, but sometimes we don't hit it. We have to run over stuff before we start. But here we are. And this time of day in the park is great because maybe you can see there are a lot of people here, like behind us, exercising. And as you can see, they're not 20-something, 30-something. These are people in 50, 60, maybe even 70 years old. And they're out here every morning doing these kind of exercise. Now, over in China, I guess you see this all the time in parks. Older people know what to do there. Here in the US, we got some problems with that. One of them is calendar age versus biological age. You can be a certain age every year at your birthday, but that doesn't mean that's how old you really are. So we're coming up with some challenges, some tests, and we're only in the draft stage that anyone can do from a scale of 1 to 10. So 1, for instance, will be balance. Balance is one of the problems that older people have. We lose our balance because it never gets challenged. How many times you heard about someone falling, breaking a hip, for instance? So it's going to be easiest to hardest. And right now, I'm up to about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a few of them. So you got a ways to go. So try some of these, let us know what you think, give us some feedback, how difficult some of these are for you. And by the way, in less than 2 weeks, I'm heading to Japan. So you're gonna start getting some videos, news, little clips, whatever I can do from Japan, and how a trip to the other side of the world, how it affects your body, and what you can do when you go on a long trip like that. So keep an eye out for that. First one we're gonna do is balance. So try this, let me know what you think. Now balance is this is not kind of an artificial balance test to start with, but it's a good place to start. Really, balance is about movement and keeping your balance as you move. But for this first one, you may already be challenged. Just lift your left leg and balance on your right leg, just like so. Best you hold your leg in front instead of behind you. You can. Actually, if you move your leg, it might make the balance more difficult. And it's to a count of 10. 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then of course you switch to the other leg and repeat and do the same thing. So that'd be 1. If you do fine with that, move to the next one. So it gets a little harder. We're gonna stand on one leg. This time we're gonna take away a little bit of your vision. Close one eye. Notice it's the morning, I'm a little off balance. So for a count of 10, we're closing our right eye. I don't know if you can see it, but there it is. Then after that, open your right eye, close your left eye for 10 counts. Yeah. Like so. So your vestibular sense, that's in your inner ear, connects to your vision. When you start taking away eyesight and doing some other things I'll show you, it challenges your balance a lot. And it's gonna get tougher now. Stand on your right leg, but this time, let's see if I can do it. Close both eyes. 2, see that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I didn't make it. But the funny thing about balance, if I was to practice that for another 30 seconds, it improves quickly as you practice it. You can lose it quickly It needs to be practiced pretty much every day, to tell you the truth. It's the kind of quality that needs daily practice. It improves quickly, but it goes away quickly. So if that wasn't hard enough for you, obviously you repeat it on the other leg, right? Both eyes are closed. You'll find when you first close your eyes for those first 1 or 2 seconds, your balance is good, and then suddenly things start going wobbly. If you have to save yourself like this, and you barely touch, that doesn't count. You've already lost your balance. Now we're going to take challenge vision and your motion in your ear. So we're standing on my right leg, and I'm going to turn my head. You'd be surprised how this challenges balance. Eight, 9, 10. And obviously you do it on the left leg as well. On the left leg as well. So far that's balancing on one leg, balancing on one leg with one eye closed, right eye, then left eye. Balancing on one leg with both eyes closed, balancing on one leg, turning your head. Now it gets tougher. This is number 5. This is as far as we're going to go with this today. Now we're going to balance on one leg with your eyes closed and turning your head. And my left leg is feeling it. And I lost it. I haven't been practicing my balance enough, so this is a good wake-up call for me. I get busy doing all this stuff, and sometimes I forget to keep the fundamental stuff in place. So those are the first 5. Give those a try. You might get stuck at number 2, and that's fine. Just write in and say, I'm having trouble with number 2. When we come up with the full 10, there will be solutions to help you with your balance if you're having a lot of trouble, so don't worry about it. Second is bracing. Now, I got a quiz for all of you out there. You hear the word core. For the last 15, 20 years, functional training, core, all this stuff's been, you see it all the time in marketing, gyms. Does anybody really know, can you tell me what the core is? A lot of people think it's just your abs, but you'd be incorrect. Your core is your whole trunk, from your hips, front, side, back, all the way up your back to your neck, and your abs and everything else on the side that wraps around all the way up into your chest. This is the system that when you move your upper body transmits to lower body, back and forth. But it also, your spine is your main mast. That's the main thing of your core. So that's like the mast of your ship. So bracing is a basic skill, and what that means is, let's say you're falling, there's a reactive response where your core kicks in to protect your back, for instance. Let's say you're just walking around, you trip over something, your core responds. Let's say you got to catch something. There's a million examples. But bracing is a basic fundamental thing, and if you're sitting a lot, not doing any exercise, it kind of goes away and it's not a reflex anymore. So first test for bracing is the basic plank exercise. I'll show you from the side. So this is like you're going to start a push-up, holding like this. Now notice, as soon as I went into this, I didn't let this happen. That's not bracing. Nothing's engaged here. That's not bracing. It's throwing a lot of pressure on your back, especially if it's all loose in there. So, watch this again. Hands directly under your shoulders. Notice my head's not drooping. My elbows are straight. My knees are locked, right? And I'm holding. I think with the test, you're going to have to hold that for 1 minute nice and straight, and it's called a plank because you're straight like a plank, not some old warped plank that's been out in the rain for 20 years, which maybe is what you feel like, but a long, straight, firm plank, a big 6-inch, let's say, plank. So that's step 1. So if you did that okay, we'd move to step 2, which gets a little bit harder. We're going to do a plank on your forearms instead. You've probably seen this in magazines and whatever, but now we're on your forearms like so. Now you can put your hands either like this, you got that, Jonas, or like this. Doesn't matter. You can try both ways. Sometimes I switch off.
Great, stand there, stay there. Let me just show them the rest of your body. Great. See that you're standing. Keep continuing.
Okay. So there's ways to make that exercise harder. I've seen people hold that for 5 minutes. If you can hold that for 5 minutes, that's right, really not doing anything anymore. There's ways to make it so it'll give you better results. But for right now, see if you can hold that for a minute without any sagging, without everything collapsing. That's step 2. Step 3, we're going to put some movement in. Get a little hamstring stretch in while we're doing this. Your shoulders are going to get a little more work. This is called a walkout. Start with my hands on the ground, and I walk out to the plank. Here, and then back. Here, and then back. That's something I want you to watch. Jonas, see if you can get my hips here. If you're not fully bracing, you might see this happen. Somebody walks out and they start wiggling their hips a lot. All right? That's not really bracing in your abs. So I want you to think of solid hips. You're going directly into that solid plank when you get fully extended. One more time. See if you can keep your knees fairly straight. You might really feel a hamstring stretch here. Walk out, breathe in if you have to, and walk back. So that's a regular walkout. Now we're going to make it a little more difficult. We're going to do another walkout, but this time go in and out of that forearm plank. So watch this. It's out, onto your forearms, back to your walkout. So one more time. It's good if you switch that off, start with your right arm, then the next rep, start with your left. So for those walkouts, thinking of keeping the number between 10 and 15. We're still working on the draft, like I said. But if you can do 10 of those nice and solid, you're doing pretty good. Last one, we're going to put more motion in. We're going to put a little crawling in. I'm going to go up here on the ledge to do that. This is called a bear crawl. Football players, a lot of people do this exercise. Just think of a grizzly bear or a black bear. They kind of walk and run with their butt kind of high in the air. Well, just think of yourself as a bear. My butt's higher in the air. It gets more difficult if you lower your butt, and that'll come. So let's just stay with a bear crawl. Keep your hips up and crawl. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's more advanced versions of that. If you want to work your shoulders harder, you can go backwards. But that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5. Notice when you do your bear crawl, same thing with the walkouts. One last thing. Sometimes I'll see people and it'll be real wobbly in there. Once again, that's not a full brace. Let's work on keeping those hips pretty still and just work on the crawling movement. Put all your energy going forward instead of sideways. So those are the first 5 of those.
You demonstrate the bear crawl again?
One more time, bear
this
crawl.
angle.
Now you can do this with your knees bent like this, or you can keep them a lot straighter. Sometimes I switch off, I do it either way. All right. I also like to keep my head up a little bit. Let's not let your head drop. Let's keep it up. Keep your eyes forward. Let's go all the way to the end. I'll pick up the base. It's a great exercise in itself, and as you can see, maybe you can hear, it's got my breathing elevated a little bit. I got a lot of crawling drills. That's one of the more basic ones. So that's 5 for the bracing. Now, I'm going to, as I said, each of these will have 10, so there will be 5 more. Each one gets more and more difficult. The 10th one's reserved for people, frankly, if you got to bear crawl, you'd be fine. But the 10th one's reserved to people that want to be a real superhero. They got a little something going on in their ego they got to prove, like me. So, last one. We kind of lost contact with the ground, with the floor. We sit in chairs a lot. How about just sitting on the ground, just like so? I'm gonna go up here. How about just sitting down on the ground like so, and getting up from the regular ground? It's a lot tougher than getting up from a chair. Now, notice I just use my hand to get up from the ground. I use it to get down and get up. I did that on purpose. There was a test, it was about 10 years ago or less, I think, from a Brazilian researcher about getting up and down off the ground. And his test was, the more body parts you have to use, and that means hands and knees really, to get down on the ground and get back up, the faster you're going to die, the older you are. Now that might be a little dubious, that's a pretty big claim. But I think part of what he says, there is really something to it. If you have big trouble getting down and off the ground, that is a sign that aging is going faster than it needs to. So his test would go like this. Let's say I have to put one knee down and one hand down to sit down. I had 2 points of my body touching right there, so I'd subtract 2 points for that. Now let's say I needed to use both hands to get up. That was 2 hands, so that's 2 more points. So you'd subtract 4 points from that. So the more points, the worse your score.
So the goal is to get 0.
The goal is to get 0, which I'm gonna attempt to do. A little stiff in the morning. And there's different strategies, by the way, I've seen people do getting up and down. This is the way I do it. So, sitting, like so. Standing, like so. That was a little off balance. But later in the day, I'll be able to do it better than that. So the more you need to use your hands and knees.
One more time.
One more
Sitting,
time.
0 points.
Okay.
Great shape.
So,
not aging.
this should be a fairly youthful looking, I hope. So I sat. So I can sit here, I can eat my lunch, meditate, talk to anybody. It's a pretty girl over there, maybe I'm talking to her. And get back up, and there we go. Now, obviously, if you've had knee replacements, knee surgery, bad knee injuries, back problems, hip replacements, all this kind of stuff, that's going to affect that test. You may never be able to get a perfect score. So work on the best score that you can, because you have the potential to be twice as good as you are now anyway. So that's just a standalone test. It's a fun test. See if you can come up with other strategies to get up off the ground without using your knees and your hands. I've seen a lot of different ones. Kind of funny what people try to do. Just don't try to make it gymnastics and contort, make it natural. And that's the third test. Now there's going to be 10 to 12 of these kind of tests when we're done. So maybe you have some ideas of what we can do. I know I do. I know people behind the camera, you guys do. So that's what we're going to be working on. It's going to be a lot of fun. Wait till you see it. It's pretty exciting. But for now, that's where we are with the drafts. I just wanted to show you. I'm going to go home now, have some breakfast. I'm pretty hungry. Maybe make some of that juice. And tell you the truth, it's summer.
Sign off.
There's no summer, but pretty nice today. So let's you and I spend each day being younger than we were last year. See you next week.